Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here doing my spoiler discussion for 47 Meters Down. If you guys don't want any spoilers, I did my spoiler-free review already, so I'll put a link in the description of that if you want to check it out. Check out the movie, and then come back here if you're interested. But getting right into the official spoilers, so that's your official warning. Really the only thing worth talking about for this is like the actual ending. Like everything else is, it's like, alright, this was good, that was good. And we'll talk about some of the scenes leading up to the ending, but the ending is like the main thing I wanted to talk about because I thought it was interesting. I didn't think it was necessary, but I still enjoyed it. I thought it was good, especially the scenes. Like, I don't know if I certainly love the scenes that they had for the ending, but it's like, man, that was an interesting little twist ending. It was definitely unnecessary, for sure it was an unnecessary ending, but, it's like, alright, I still like it. So, going into the ending, we have, of course, I would say what really set this off, of course, was the dialogue. It was like, alright, we have... the first plan fails. Surprise, surprise. The person sent down to save their lives got eaten by a shark. Like, apparently he didn't get eaten when we thought he got eaten because he was actually alive during the part. I wish I could remember the characters' names. But I think it's Kate and Lisa. So I think Kate is played by Mandy Moore. So she goes and she ends up getting the flashlight. It's like, okay, of course the dude is dead. I just assumed that, I was like, he died like, who knows how many feet up. And he dropped the flashlight, and that's why it was slowly, sinking down. Turns out, after she gets the flashlight, and she's trying to find her way back, he's still alive. He's, like, just behind her. This is one of those moments where certain things didn't make sense. But, because, like, the whole movie is like, oh, they're talking to each other through these walkie-talkies, but he didn't say anything until, like, the jump scare moment. It was, like, I think they do that twice in the movie where I'm like, they should be able to hear each other. And it kind of made sense during the ending as well, so I'll talk about that. But, he ends up behind her jump scare moment. He said something super fast. It was something like, I think he yelled, like, get back to the cage. And he was instantly hit by that shark. And that was game over. And so it's like, oh, crap. She has to find her way back to the cage. She ends up finding his body along the way. But, the tank is actually pierced. So Lisa is stuck and is like, she still doesn't have any air. And it's like, hey, this dude got murdered. You got to help us out. So they end up dropping the tanks because, of course, the winch fell. That was a great part of the movie, too. Honestly, I knew it was going to break, but it was like, man, something about that is just really well done because it was so depressing where it's like, oh, they think they're about to make it, and then the cable snaps, and they fall all the way back down, and I was like, that's having depressing. But, after everything kind of falls apart, they get the secondary tanks, and it's like, hey, we need to get these tanks, but... the reason I didn't send them down before is because you can basically hallucinate and there's, a bunch of issues like that could really screw things over and you're done for. And so of course that's where things start to pick up. So we have Lisa going out to get the tanks and she gets them, she brings them back, and sadly she gets killed off. I knew one of them had to die, and as much as I like Claire Holt because I watched the originals, I was like, she ain't Mandy Moore, then I figured she was going to get killed. So I wasn't really surprised. I was like, oh, she got hit by that shark. Shocker. Like, one of these people has to die, and it ain't going to be Mandy Moore. So, of course, she gets killed off, and that's where we have Kate, who actually ends up getting the oxygen tank, and just as she's about to die, just like her sister, she gets at the last second, she's breathing, and everything's good, and it's like, okay, I'm stuck, I'm trapped alone, my leg is trapped under this thing, I gotta find some way to get out of here. And that's when she ends up getting a call from her sister. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Because, as I mentioned with the guy, where I was like, it doesn't make sense that he wasn't yelling at her because they're walkie-talkies within a certain range. It didn't make sense to me. Like, why isn't he, for the jump scare purposes, it doesn't make sense that he wouldn't say, hey, I'm coming up behind you, or anything like that. He was literally right behind her, and that's when he said, get back to the cage. Nothing from a distance, which apparently is like, I don't know, almost like 50 feet or something, because she went super far. And that's when, the radio cut out when she was, like, getting the flashlight and stuff. So it was like, what the heck is going on here? So it starts to make sense as things go on when her sister contacts her. And I was like, wouldn't she have been screaming, like, the whole freaking time? And we would have heard this for, like, I think it was, like, I think the actual timing that they show in the movie, it was almost, like, 2 minutes, 3 minutes or something. I was like, all this time she's been sitting here, we didn't hear her sister screaming for her life, like, oh my god, there's sharks and this and that. It's like, that's really odd to me. And suddenly, poof, the walkie-talkie starts kicking in. I was like, interesting. I just thought, it was just like the guys. I was like, that's just, movie things. Because that happens where people just kind of avoid certain bits of logic. And it's like, okay, sure, we'll just say it works. So of course she gets this call from her sister, like, I'm badly injured. And Kate has to find some way to save herself, she uses the flotation thing, which once again, it's television, so, or movies and TV, it's all the same, where there's some bit of dialogue, they reference it, and then it's used later on. So they do that quite a bit in this, where it's like obvious foreshadowing. And so it's like, oh, I need this thing, I need to get the cage off of me, so I'll use, I forgot what it's called because I'm not a scuba diver, but she uses the thing, she inflates it, and that's supposed to help her, lift the cage off of her. It scratches her up and she's bleeding more. She already was bleeding because she shot her hand with the harpoon, which I thought was a good scene. I thought that would actually bring more sharks. I was surprised there weren't more sharks, like even in the fantasy that we got for the ending. I was like, man, she cut her hand. I thought the whole point of this was like she cut her hand, she got blood on her leg. And it makes sense when it gets into kind of like the crazy ending where there's swimming to the top, where like they're getting bit up to crazy, bit up like crazy. But she ends up escaping. She's scraping her knee up and stuff. It got kind of visceral. I was like, man, it was slow, and she's just scratching her knee the whole way down and just cutting it open. I was like, that's interesting. So she has to go to save her sister, and she's just in like a pool of her own blood because her leg is messed up. And it's like, all right, there's nothing we can do. I had to come get my sister. We have to get the heck out of here. So, you got to swim to the top. And of course, they use this dialogue even within her own fantasy. She had the dialogue where it's like, okay, well, if the cage is no longer safe, like, you have to get your sister up top or she'll bleed out, especially with the her tank having been pierced by the shark and everything. It's like, all right, well, you have to swim. Like, you have to swim to the top. That's your only option. Then do it. So I love the way that it plays out, where it's like, all right, we have the flares. They're using the flares and everything. And, they're able to hold the sharks off. They get the second one, and of course it drops. So then they have to go to the third one. And that's when we get this shot from the trailer, which it was a great shot. Even though I knew it was coming, it was a great shot, I thought, where like it's just the red flare and it's just like sharks surrounding them. I thought that was actually a really great shot. I think it just looks really good, and it's like it goes from pitch black to red, and it's just sharks all around. I was like, that's actually a really great shot to me. So of course they're swimming. They finally get to the point where the final flare goes out and they're able to, get to the top without getting the bends. And as they're going up, it's just a back and forth. It's like, oh, we're almost out, and here comes a shark, and it gets you in the leg. And it was just nuts. And I think it was, I think both of them got hit one time, but I'm pretty sure, maybe Mandy Moore's character, maybe it was her both times. But I thought it was interesting. I was like, oh man, this is a really crazy ending. They get to the top. They're both wounded, but they both survive. And I thought that was an interesting way to end it. And then it goes to her looking at her hand, and you see the blood is like floating still. And I was like, oh, she was hallucinating the whole thing, which I thought was probably going to happen. And I was kind of hoping that she would be hallucinating in a different way. Like maybe she would, see her sister back in the cage or something like that, where she would know that she wasn't there. Or just, something else. And I thought, it was hard to say, like, if they were going to do it with both of them hallucinating or how that was going to play out. But of course, we knew that was going to happen. Like, it was like, there's hallucinations, you got to be careful. And that's, where things get kicked off. So we get to the ending when she's looking at her hand and stuff, and it's like, oh, she's been hallucinating this whole time. And, once she actually got the oxygen, that was pretty much it. Like, her relaxing and breathing, she got it. Like, she was starting to hallucinate, and that was pretty much it. And of course, we get that reveal, and the guy's talking to her like, you're hallucinating, you need to listen to me. But if you can hear me, the Coast Guard is actually here, and they do come in. I thought it was going to end with her laughing and hallucinating. I was like, man, that's a super dark ending. Whereas, like, her sister is definitely dead, and she's laughing and hallucinating, especially with the cage open, because that was one of the big things when she, like, first cut her hand and she got the tank. She was just sitting there like, oh, I can breathe, and she never closed the cage again, but it goes into the stuff of her saving her sister. But especially with her sitting there laughing, I was like, holy crap, because it was zooming out and everything. It was definitely like, it's about to go to black or something. And she's just laughing and hallucinating and bleeding with the door, like, wide open to the cage. I was like, this is, a super dark ending. But the Coast Guard does actually get there. They lift the cage, they actually pull her out, and she realizes when she sees, like, the lights flashing on her that she was hallucinating. And that's when she realizes that, unfortunately, her sister is actually dead. She didn't end up saving her or anything, and they didn't have this crazy swim to the top where their legs are getting bitten and they're getting, like, pulled in, and she, like, digs a shark's eye out and stuff, which is what you're supposed to do. I was thinking that of the whole movie. Like, if one of them gets grabbed, you're supposed to, like, punch a shark. I know it's hard, but if you punch a shark, they will be like, oh, snap, I'm out, because things don't fight sharks. So they get surprised by that type of stuff, and they tend to leave. Granted, sharks are big, and they swing real fast underwater, so you might not be thinking of that. But if you happen to be in a shark fight, either punch it or just dig its eye out. I would assume dig its eye out is a much better option, because you can't get a lot of speed underwater. Just go for the eye. It definitely works. But she does that, you know, them getting bit in the leg and stuff, and they're saved, and you know they each have their own wounds. I thought that would have actually been a great ending, and then we get the reveal, and she's saved, and it's like, darker ending, definitely an unnecessary twist. I don't hate it, but I can't say that I liked it better than them both surviving, and mostly because of the way that it happened. Because we go through what I assumed was happening. You know, her sister gets killed, and of course she's left by herself, and she has to find some way to escape. I thought she would have to swim to the top on her own anyway. I thought that's how that was going to play out. Like, she wouldn't get to be rescued. Something would happen. Like, you know, maybe the sharks would come back, because they mention it early on, but it doesn't actually go anywhere. When the shark first attacks them, it's bending the cage and it's biting through it and everything. And that's like the first thing they mention is like, holy crap, you know, the cage is going to break. And it never actually happens. Like, it bends the bars open, but they never actually get attacked a second time inside of the cage. So I thought for sure when she was by herself, she was actually going to get attacked again, and the shark would bite through the cage but also move the cage, and so she'd be able to free herself. And then maybe she, you know, hit it with a harpoon gun or something, and then it would go off for a split second, and then it's like, well, crap, the cage isn't even safe. I have to leave now. That's kind of how I thought it was going to go, and then, you know, the hallucination kicks in. And that's kind of where the big thing is like, it's odd that that bothers me for a film, but I really liked what I thought was going to be the legitimate ending, or what, you know, seemingly was going to be the ending, which I knew there was going to be a twist because I heard that there was an unnecessary twist in the film, and I was kind of waiting for it, and I thought at some point it was going to be the really stupid thing of like, for whatever reason, the guys just wanted to murder them, or something really dumb like that. I was really hoping that that wasn't the twist, and I'm glad it wasn't, because I'm like, that just wouldn't even make sense. They were like, you know, serial killers that drop people in the water. But this was still an unnecessary twist, especially after such a great sequence. I thought that actually would have been a perfect way to end it, where it's like, holy crap, they both actually end up surviving, but they're very severely wounded. Like, they both get crazy shark bites and stuff like that. And, you know, like, I think Lisa was, like, completely passed out, and, you know, like, Kate screaming and stuff and how much pain she is. And I was like, this is actually a really cool ending. Like, if it ended like this, that would actually be, honestly, I think it would have been the perfect ending, because it's like, you never see the movie where both people survive, but they kind of even it out, because it's like, oh, she was fine the whole movie, outside of being trapped, and, you know, she scratched her leg up, but it obviously wasn't as bad as being bitten. And then as they hit the surface, she's getting dragged down, and she, you know, fighting the shark and everything. I'm like, this actually would have been a great ending. They could have, you know, if they ended there. And it's just like, that extra little 5 minutes is like, it's supposed to add in like this level of dark realization and stuff, and it kind of does, because it's like, oh, that sucks that her sister died. But at the same time, it kind of takes away from the movie solely based on the fact that with that hallucination, it kind of has a generic movie, horror, you know, sort of horror type of movie ending, where it's like, oh, surprise, surprise, of the two people, one did die. And it could have been a nice little twist, even if it's a minor thing. I mean, it's not minor if someone lives or dies, but, you know, in terms of the story, you know, that's an irrelevant twist. You know, it's definitely unnecessary to throw that in, and it doesn't really add that much value, because it's like, I think everyone going into this movie assumed one of these two characters has to die. It's just like when it's like, hey, we're sending someone down to help you. We knew that guy was going to die. I thought we'd at least see him, which technically I guess we do for like half a second before he ends up being completely obliterated. But still, it's like, of course that's going to happen. And you have two characters. One is played by Mandy Moore, the other a lesser known actress. And it's like, I can guess where this is going to go. And it seemed like they switched it up, and then it's like, surprise, we switched up the switch up and made it super normal. And it was kind of the ending you would most likely expect. So in that regard, it kind of disappointed me, but I still enjoyed the film overall. But it was like, just that unnecessary twist took like a little bit off the top for me. It was like, man, would have loved it if they both made it and were both injured, instead of the normal ending where one lives and one lives and one dies. But that's just my opinion on it. Still enjoy the movie. I still think it's worth seeing. But if we could just take that off, it wasn't a hallucination, I think I would have actually enjoyed it like a little bit more, just for that, the fact that both people actually survived the horror movie and only a random person ended up dying. It's like, oh, shock. So it's such a minor thing. Still enjoyed the movie myself. But like I said, I really had to talk about it because nothing else is really a spoiler in this. But that was really good. It was still a good movie. Just an interesting twist. It was interesting to make that the twist, because I think people would expect it too, when they could have just had the hallucinations be the two of them surviving and going crazy, or, you know, thinking one of them died. That would have been interesting. You know, that, I think actually that would have been a better twist, to think one of them died and then it gets to the end like, oh, I was saved, and then it cuts back and it's like, actually you were hallucinating the whole time and you both live and they both get saved. I actually think I would have liked that better than the way it was done. But still a fun movie. One of the other things I wanted to talk about was the shot when it's right after they get the flashlight and like Kate is going back and it's like a first person view of her. I love that scene because it was like you can't see in front of you, and I was like, I couldn't tell when the shark was going to show up, and it doesn't at all. I thought that was a great scene. I just wanted to mention that because the whole way through I'm like, is it gonna like come at her? Is it gonna swim past? Is it gonna be off in the corner? I was looking like the whole time, all you see are like little microbes in the water. And I'm like, where's the shark? All I was waiting for that whole scene, and it doesn't happen. I was like, that's actually genius. It doesn't happen that whole time. So wanted to mention that because I love that shot. But want to know what you guys thought about the ending. Were you mad that they did that little twist? It was definitely unnecessary. I don't think it could be argued that it was necessary to do that twist. I think it was solely unnecessary, and that, I mean, obviously it's still an opinion. I just don't think there's a way around saying that was an unnecessary twist. But we'd love to know what you guys thought about it in the movie in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.